Hi, friends. Welcome back to the show. I am really excited to welcome Janice Hostager to the podcast today. You're really in for a treat with this episode. We go so deep into marketing strategy, and she leads us through her process that she's been using for years that she developed to really clarify what is that strategy that you need to have for the different messaging that you're putting out there for your business, and really how to be successful and work smarter, not harder, when it comes to your marketing. And she really goes through some of the pitfalls that she's seen business owners fall into. I know I had sometimes fallen into some of these pitfalls in my own business, and I'm sure many of us have had these instances where we just don't feel our marketing is working for us. And today we are really going to dive deep into that. This is an episode where you are going to want to come back to it, take notes. I will give you a little spoiler alert that all of the things that we're covering are going to be in a handout that you can download from Janice. So we'll give that link at the end. So don't feel like you have to write down everything. You will be able to get that handout from her, but definitely something to come back to as you continue working through your own marketing strategy. A little background about Janice. So Janice is a marketing strategist and fractional CMO who partners with CEOs, executives, and solopreneurs to help grow their businesses. After spending more than 25 years working in marketing for multi-million-dollar brands, nonprofits, and new startups, Janice knows what it takes to grow a thriving business. She has developed a framework called the Trail to the Sale, which helps small business owners build a marketing strategy step by step to reach their goals. And that's what we're going to walk through in today's episode. So Janice enjoys working with entrepreneurs and loves the passion that she finds in her clients. I have to say, I am the same. I love working with entrepreneurs. In Janice's spare time, she enjoys running, traveling, and hanging out with her husband and two adult children. All right, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Janice, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Whitney, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so excited for our conversation. So you are a marketing strategist, and I know for so many business owners, marketing our businesses can be really tough. We want the more leads, we want more clients, but how can we attract them effectively and also not burn out in the process of that marketing? So that's really where the marketing strategy comes in, and that's what you are going to be walking us through today. So before we dive into all of that, though, what inspired you to become a marketing strategist and start your own business? And has your own journey with that influenced how you help other small businesses now?
Oh, great question. And yes, it definitely does. I started with the dream of getting into advertising initially, and I did. I worked for a big retailer, I worked in advertising, and I worked for some small agencies. And in those days, you could only kind of wear one hat. It was either, if you wanted to be a creative in the creative advertising space, you had to be either like a copywriter or a art director. So, and I like both. So it was really this big struggle for me. I was trying to, figure out which one I was better at. And eventually I got funneled into the art direction side of things.
Okay.
And I was doing that for several years. And then my husband, who's a college professor, got a position in a college town in Wisconsin. So we moved there, which was a small community, and there were no agencies. There were no corporate jobs.
No remote
nothing.
work at that time.
No, there was not really. Well, there kind of was, but that's not to speak
Not
of.
for
So
yeah.
And I had two little kids at the time, and I started commuting back. A 2-hour commute back to Minneapolis, which is where we came from.
Oh my God.
Each day, or like a few days a week anyway. And with two little kids at home, it just got to be so stressful because I was not only, leaving them for the day, I was like leaving the state for the day. So I decided then I would just try and open up my own little design agency. I started freelancing. And then from there, I started gaining more clients. And then I just kind of opened up a little design agency. And then that grew from there. Did that for a number of years. But then I started noticing most of my clients were small business owners. I would come in and do a logo and a website design for them and, other brochures and such.
Yeah.
But I started noticing that they didn't really know what to do after that.
Uh-huh.
And Facebook was just kind of coming on the scene. So they didn't know how to handle that. And so I was struggling with this all on my own as well, because it was new for everybody, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, social media was a new thing at that time. And so I was trying to figure out how to do it. And as I was learning, I was sharing with my clients. And what I started noticing is that a lot of small business owners that I worked with and others that I didn't did what I called shot in the dark marketing, where they would like try running an ad, or they would send out a
Mm.
press release, or they might have, I don't know, did a little on Instagram. Well, Instagram wasn't around then, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Facebook
Go to a
or
networking event or a
yeah,
fair or
yeah,
something. Just do one thing. And
yeah, yes. But I noticed that they didn't really have their language down. They didn't really they have their messaging down. They didn't necessarily know their target customer very well. And nothing was really sticking because they weren't putting any extended effort into it.
mm-hmm.
And so they were getting frustrated and sometimes they were failing with their businesses too.
So sad.
So having that same feeling of overwhelm on my own and seeing what they were going through, I decided that there had to be an easy way because the thing with marketing is like there's so much to it, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I could talk to you for hours about social media marketing or Facebook or Instagram alone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much depth to every single part of it
Yeah.
that I had to, for my own sanity, break it up into manageable pieces. And that's when I started with the trail to the sale.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was I kind of combined a buyer's journey map. So that's where
Right.
you take a look at the process that your buyer goes through before they actually buy or spend money with you,
Mm-hmm.
and combine that with just a sales funnel. And that's sort of how that kind of came together. So
Yeah. I love that. So it was very much born from your own experience, both marketing your own business and what was working and not working, and then also what you had been seeing businesses going through out there. And yeah, I have to attest as well. I think one of the things when I was starting my business, I mean, I didn't know anything about Facebook ads, but I just like ran one because I didn't know what
yeah,
what I was doing, but it's like, okay, well, let me try it. But a lot
right,
of these things with marketing, it's not like other things where you can try the thing and then kind of learn from that experience and kind of get the hang of it. You do have to have some kind of strategy going in. It's not like if you just start running Facebook ads tomorrow, you started your business and you start doing them tomorrow, that you're going to kind of like get the hang of it and be successful. Like you really need to have
right,
that messaging down and understanding at what stage of your business is the right time to be going in these different channels and different avenues that you're using for client acquisition and all of that. Like it
hmm
it's yes, the shot in the dark can work for some things maybe, but I think with marketing it's just going to waste a lot of time and money and frustration. And honestly too, I know for myself and maybe for other business owners, like you can get impatient too. You'd go to that one networking event and you don't see anything from it. And so then you stop doing it and think, well, I'm never going to do those again. And it's like, oh, well, if you'd had some messaging and understood kind of what the point of that event was,
hmm
you would have maybe seen some more out of it.
right, right. And networking is a great form of marketing. I think sometimes it's not really thought about necessarily as marketing, but it definitely
Hmm.
is. But so I have this trail
Yeah. Let's
broken
talk through
down
that. Yeah.
so that you actually can think about this. Well, first of all, before you do anything with marketing strategy, you have to know who it is that you're aiming to get as a customer, right? So you have to know who your ideal customer is and then kind of map that person out. If you have a product, do you want it to be a discount product, which I wouldn't recommend for a lot of reasons?
Mhm.
Or do you want it to be very high end? I mean, these are two different customers, right? Or if you find that the type of buyer that's drawn to you is, a 50-year-old woman versus a 19-year-old male, again, very, very different messaging,
Mhm.
everything's very, very different.
Yep.
So really understanding who that is, who that you're aiming for, and you can decide to some degree, but also you have to know that they're going to be drawn to it too. You have to know what, that's
Yeah.
who it's right for. And a lot of people, when they start a business, understand that, and they have at least some idea about who their ideal customer is.
Mm-hmm.
So once you figure that out and you really understand what your product or service is all about, then you need them to discover you, right? So that's the awareness stage. So
So that's the first step in the trail.
first step, yep, the
Okay.
first step is awareness, and that's where your customer can discover you. Simple as that. And that can be a lot of places, right? That can be your website, and I always suggest starting with your website and search engine optimization. Know what words people are Googling to find a problem, a solution to their problem, and include those in your website. And SEO is a whole another
That's a whole
podcast
nother thing.
episode. Yes.
Yep, for sure. Yep.
And also understand their intent. So if you have a customer that's Googling accountants near me, for example, that's going to be, they are looking for an accountant. They're ready to buy. Versus if you're looking for somebody, or if you have somebody that's Googling how to set up an S Corp, then they're not probably looking to buy, but you know that they need accounting help. Therefore, you can probably create something for them, a blog article or a lead magnet or something like that they can use. And so it goes back again to that customer, really understanding what they're looking for, understanding who you're searching for, and then combining the two. Awareness could also be, it could be anything from a sign, a magnetic sign you have on your car, or it could be those networking events you're talking about. People go to those and have your elevator pitch ready to go so that people know what you do and how you can help them. Can be a lot of different things. Ads, it could be an appearance on a podcast or, a lot of different things, anywhere that they can figure you out. So,
Okay.
So that's the awareness stage. And the next stage is what I call the consider stage. And that's where you can kind of diagnose your customer's symptoms or their problems and show how you can create a transformation for them, kind of painting a picture for them, how they can move from just someone who has a problem to someone who has a solution and how their life can change. At this stage, I also like to get them on my email list, because then you can really nurture that transaction, that customer, send them out emails, let them get to know you, give them some information, give them value, lots of value at this point. Just give them information that they need to know, like, and trust you.
Because they've moved through, they know about you, and hopefully you've gotten them onto your email list, and now they are considering they're maybe learning about their problem for the first time, because that's the other thing too. I think sometimes we think all of our customers are in one frame of mind, but like you were saying, there's customers coming from all different phases of that journey, that some are ready to make a decision, some are not really sure. And so our content has to be a bit of a mix. If we're sending out emails to our email list, we don't want to be talking only to the buyers, and we don't want to be talking to only the people that are still trying to figure out their problem. But it's a great way, having that email list, to nurture people, and because they are still trying to figure out what they want to do.
Totally. Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah. And so really the question you want to ask at that stage is, how can I offer them value in exchange for their email list or email address? Yeah. So
the next
stage
we talk about that a lot with this
podcast.
Yeah. And just your website being that prime place where you can be getting people onto your email list, because there are so many people that are coming to your website and discovering you, but they're not ready to buy yet. So I
totally
tick as well. I definitely agree. Getting people onto your email list is such a huge, huge thing to do.
Yeah. As the saying goes, the money is in the list. So always building that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's very sobering because I do this for a lot of clients. I neglect my own list, and I kick myself all the time. It's one of those things where, do as I say, not as I do, kind of.
Yeah, for many years I neglected my list, and now I'm finally really focusing on building it and seeing how, like, when I was launching my course, I sold it to my list. That was the first place I went to, and I
Yes.
already had people that were interested who had been following me and being nurtured by me for years that hadn't been ready for my premium custom websites. But then once I had this other offer, they were my first buyers. And that's why I always tell
Right.
people, it's like it's not just this list of people that want to hear about what your dog was doing last week. Like, these are actual potential leads and potential customers that they had something, that they were interested in you for. And yeah, it's great to share that personality as well, but it is also about you giving that value to them, and then they can be potential customers. And I think a lot of business owners just don't really they're like, oh yeah, an email list. Like, no, that is, like you said, the money is in the list.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's
anyway,
cool
yeah.
for sure.
All right. So we're only on step 2. I'll let you keep going.
No, no, it's I think they get a little easier after this because people like a funnel. So I don't like the funnel visual because I think a lot of times people think, oh, if I get them in the awareness stage, they'll just kind of fall through and become a customer. But that's not really it. You have to nurture them every step of the way, and you have to give them what they need, or they're just going to click away and may never come back.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they do click away and do come back. But that's another reason why the trail works is that, you don't
Yep.
start someone mid funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Whole nother conversation again, though. So, this is-
Yeah. But
so
it's a cycle and an ecosystem. So even those
y-
people that click away, maybe they'll see one of your posts on social and then they'll come back
yes,
in and all of that. Yeah.
absolutely. So the next stage is what I call the compare stage. And a lot of times we forget about this. It's not just a matter of talking about who you are and who you can help and all the good things that you can share, but how do you stack up against the competitors out there, including what they're currently doing to solve their problem.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not be a competitor. They may just have a hack that they're
Mm-hmm.
using to do something, and it falls right in to what you are doing. So you want to make sure you address that. It could be inside your emails. It could be on your website, but you want to make sure that you can stand out from anything else that they're doing or anything else that could pull them away from you. So
Yeah.
yeah. So on this one, you want to make sure you address any concerns that they have about working with you. You
Mm-hmm.
can do that through your Google My Business. What do you call it? The
That
on
listing
Google,
with
it
your
comes the
reviews.
little box that comes up if
Mm-hmm.
they Google your business,
Mm-hmm.
and you can leave reviews there.
Mm-hmm.
And on social media, you can leave reviews. You can also get testimonials to put in on your site. I suggest putting them throughout your site.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a
I
lot of
agree.
places where people can just take a look, a little deeper dive at what you're doing. Because oftentimes, if they're looking for help in a certain topic or it was a certain topic or a different area, then they're going to be looking at other people that do the same thing. So you want to
Yeah.
make sure that you stand out, your onlyness factor, what makes you
Mm-hmm.
unique and different. So you stand out.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is something that I really talk about with websites too, is just because so many business owners think they just need the website for it to just be a legitimizing factor. And doesn't
Mm,
really matter what it looks like, because people are going to buy for other reasons, not by what's on your website. But truth be told, people are coming to your site. You don't know that those people are coming to your site, and they are comparing you against other people, and they are looking for that thing that is going to say, oh, I should choose him or her over these other people. And so they're reading that copy, seeing if you're using words that they're using to describe their problems, and really getting that connection with you. And then all the other things you mentioned, they're reading the FAQs, they're looking at the testimonials. Those things really do make a difference. They really
mhm.
can put someone over the edge in this stage of wanting to work with you and pick you over someone else. So your website is not just there to look pretty and be a spot for people to go and make sure you're
Yeah.
a legit business before they give you their credit card. It is actually doing work in a stage.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so much of that is even kind of unconscious. I mean, I can go to two different websites for somebody I want to work with or considering working with. And sometimes you just get a vibe off a site. So that branding is really important too, especially with
Mhm.
websites. You really want to make sure that it represents you and it represents your customer in terms of that brand, that you're attracting the right person with your brand. So there's so much of it that's unconscious. We buy by emotion. So
Yeah.
it's so complete, so complex, but
Yeah, but as long as we put in these pieces, we may not always understand how they all work together in the mind of our customers, but we know that they do work because they've worked for
yes,
businesses for years. Dialing in your branding, dialing in your messaging, having a website, and making sure you have certain things on it, those are the things that make people buy. So to think that you don't need that or that your business, can keep growing at the same rate that it's been growing without having a website that's doing those things, it's just for the longevity of your business and for the future growth. I think it's always important to say, okay, we need to have these things. And I would say too, when I'm looking at two different providers, if one of the sites doesn't have strong branding, it doesn't feel as buttoned up and professional and comprehensive, and the other one does, and that other one has slightly premium pricing, it's higher pricing, or, I'm kind of preparing for that person was like, all right, well, they seem legit. They seem like they know what's going on. I'm just
yeah,
subliminally kind of preparing myself for whatever that price tag's going to be. So I think that also when it comes to differentiating yourself, going back to what you were saying, like we don't really want to be a commodity or a discount product. We want to be seen
right,
as that expert and that premium. And, everyone's different in terms of the prices that you want to charge and that you feel comfortable for your customers. We're not saying, raise your prices to the sky and never look back, but we want to be paid for what we're worth and the expertise that we bring. And
right.
a big part of us being able to command those prices is having these kinds of things in place, like the branding, the messaging, and all of that.
Very well said. Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, a lot of it is subliminal. You don't really understand why you're drawn to it, but having those pieces in place is so important. We just have to trust the path, or trust the
Yes. The
trust
trail.
the trail.
Trust the
Yeah.
trail. I love it. Okay, so we just finished step 3. Now we're into step 4.
Right. So step 4 is evaluate. So oftentimes this isn't necessary. For example, if you're selling, chewing gum, you probably don't need to give out samples, because it's a low price item. But
Hmm.
oftentimes people are selling bigger business type software, or it could be a service that you're offering. Just having something at a low price point that they can try out is a really smart idea. Now, you mentioned it earlier, like you said that people weren't buying the premium websites you were offering, but they would buy, was it a course that you're
Hmm.
offering? Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's a perfect example of maybe the price point isn't the same, and maybe it's totally different. I made an assumption it was cheaper, but maybe it's not.
it is.
Okay.
Cheaper. Yeah.
um, but yeah, so that's just kind of a smart thing to do. Oftentimes it's called a tripwire,
Hmm.
where you're offering them a one-time deal. Buy this now, it's $17. And then you know that they're a buying customer, because that is
Mm.
something else. They're not just a follower. They are somebody that's willing to pull out their credit card and pay for what you're offering.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think this can be a little confusing for folks sometimes seeing these smaller products out there and not necessarily understanding the purpose of them in a business, because there are those businesses out there that do run on volume and they're selling a $9 product and they're
Yes.
getting hundreds of thousands of people, and it's a broad market product, and they are actually making money and building their business off of that $9 product. But for many of us, those $9 products are not where we are going home and taking that money to the bank. Sometimes those things are also just neutralizing ad costs. And really,
Hmm.
they're a way, like you just said, to get people to start showing that they do have some intent, buyer's intent. And it's a little thing for them to commit to and get some early wins. It's not going to solve the whole problem for folks, but it's
Right.
just going to get them to also do a trial run of, do I like her vibe? Do I like his or her approach to how this topic is explored? Because yeah, people want to, it's that know, like, and trust factor again, right?
Right. Right. And I like that you said trial runner, that there are people out there that just offer low cost products. And oftentimes I have bid for those. Like I'll like, okay, I'll buy that. It's, $20 or whatever,
Yeah.
and have been really disappointed in it. So making sure that you are really offering, it doesn't have to be, your premium product, but you have to really make sure that you understand that they are evaluating you at that stage too. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
offering them something that blows their socks off for $20, imagine what your $200 product is like,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So really making sure that, and that applies also to your lead magnets, making sure that if you're offering a free ebook or something like that, that it's premium
Mm-hmm.
and that it reflects the quality of your other products as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you think discovery calls fit into this bucket a little bit? I know we're not getting anyone to pay, but it does allow someone to kind of talk to you and get a feel for you a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a really good point is that, yeah, getting somebody on the phone, you can get a feel for how much the customer can get a feel for how much you know as the expert.
Mm-hmm.
And also just if you're a good match,
Mm-hmm.
that can also,
Yeah.
oh, I was going to say it could also be used as lead magnet too, but go
Right.
ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah. One thing I was going to say is I know for myself as a customer on the other side of a discovery call, I'm also looking to make sure that that provider is going to listen to me and actually
Yes.
understand and hear because I have recently, a couple months ago, been on a few calls where I actually didn't feel like they were listening to me or customizing what they were saying based off of what I had told them. And I actually recorded an episode, a podcast episode. It was like, this is what you should do and not do with discovery calls. And I think it's all about during this phase, the customer is really giving it a trial run to see, am I going to be heard? Are my needs going to be met? Is this person going to give the solution? It doesn't mean that you're customizing things for the person, but it's more just, is this going to be a right fit?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with that. So the
Okay.
next trail stop is what I call the sell stage. And
Okay.
it's a little more than just saying, here's my product, buy it. At this point, you want to be able to counter objections because no matter who you are dealing with, they probably have some kind of an objection to something or questions that is holding them up. So it could be that if you're offering a course, they want to know how long will it take? Will it take too long? Well, is
Hmm.
there enough to it that I'm going to get value out of it? Is it too much money? It's too much money. I mean, so how do you counter these things? And so there are definitely ways in which, again, a whole nother podcast to doing
Yeah.
that. But there are
Addressing
definitely ways
objections.
in
Yeah.
which you can go and, talk to them about the value, what you're getting versus what it's costing and how you want to make sure, like I run into this with marketing all the time. Oh, I can't afford that if we did this, ran those ads or whatever, but it's an investment,
Hmm.
and so you have to make sure that people understand that whatever it is they're getting, it's going to be an investment in some way, shape, or form for their life.
Hmm.
Um, you
Yeah.
also at this stage want to talk about like pricing tiers, bundles, a lot of those
Hmm.
things kind of fall
Hmm.
into that purchase.
And so these would be things you wouldn't necessarily, I mean, you could actually, I guess, have blog posts that are, if you found that there's this common objection that people have, you could have a blog post that's kind of a little bit more dialed into, like for myself, like, is it better to DIY or hire a designer, or just is a website worth it? Which is just an objection,
Yeah.
people have. You could have a blog post about that. You could have emails that you're sending to your list. So you're peppering this through, or maybe if you're leading up to maybe a mini launch that you're doing in your business, whether you're just running a sale or some kind of promotion on some service you offer, you could have a sequence of emails that's starting to hone in a little bit more and address objections, or putting it in your social media, all
Hmm.
sorts of ways to kind of get this objection handling in your content marketing.
Absolutely. I don't want you to think that you have to wait until they're ready to buy to start countering objections. I think you're absolutely right. You
Hmm.
want to pepper those throughout your entire sales lead process, your nurturing process for sure. Yeah. So I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then the next phase is kind of one that's related to sales, and that is supersize or upsell or their next sell. So if you've got something that, I get this at last year. I bought a sofa, and they made sure that if I bought this, I don't know what it was called, stain service or whatever, that they would come
Oh,
out and clean it. So I paid this extra bunch of money. It wasn't a ton of money, but yeah.
a little
And
bit.
if there was a stain on the sofa, they would come out and clean it free of charge for like 3 years or something like that. And if I
Hmm.
didn't, which was great, if I didn't use it, they would give me a store credit for that same amount, which I was like,
Oh,
yeah, it's always a reason to
that's a
buy
cool deal.
furniture. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I thought so too. But I mean, things like that where they've got their credit card out. They're willing to buy. If there can be just a little upsell or an additional thing that you can sell for them, you're not leaving money on the table at that point.
Hmm. I
And
love that.
booking the next sell, like I think about this when I go in to get my haircut. Will ask me, do you want to make an appointment for your next cut? Which is
Hmm.
brilliant. I mean, yeah, because otherwise I'm going to forget about it. It's going to be a couple months before I think about it, before my hair gets in my eyes, things like that. So you want to make it really easy for them to
Hmm.
either get additional results from the promise that you're giving them
Hmm.
or to make their next purchase.
Hmm. That's great. And I think that definitely for so many service providers listening, I'm always talking about if you can bundle or package your services so that you're not selling a one-off session because those are just,
Yes.
then you're having to sell those again and again and again. Can you get them to buy 3 months? Or maybe if you're getting creative, which I love the sofa example, maybe you could say, well, if you want to double your support, you're buying a 3 month, but if you want to double your support today, if you upgrade, you can get 10% off to book an additional 3 months, or you're adding some other kind of thing that you think, okay, they're going to get a ton of value out of my 3 month package anyway. But if they want to go even more, then here's an additional thing that I can offer them. Or at the end of that 3 month period, or maybe more at like the 2.5 month or 2 month period, talking about what are the next steps, because we don't want to be leaving it until the very end. Or, your hairdresser saying like, okay, I'll reach out to you in 2 months to schedule your next appointment. And
Right.
that's a lot easier for you to be like, oh no, I'm not sure, not return their call or whatever the case
To-
may be.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that you can do to kind of just bump them along the trail
hmm,
is
yep.
relevant here. So, yep. And then only two left, and they're lighter. The next one is one that is the serve stage. And I didn't have this in my trail for most of right after I created it. But I
Hmm.
started realizing that this was such an important thing that people kind of forgot about. It's not like when you sell them something, it's all done
Hmm.
because you want them to come back. You want them to leave you a good review. You want them to refer you to others. So you also want to make sure that they're a happy customer and address it if they're not, for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
And so it's examples of what you could do in the serve stage might be sending out some instructional videos on how to use something or enrolling them in a free course to teach them a little more about what they just bought. Or it could be, any number of things. The best way to figure out what to do in this stage is to just talk to your customer and see what they're lacking, see what they're struggling with, making sure that they are happy.
Hmm. That's great. Great advice. Yeah. And I think that is also helpful if you are launching a new service and beta testing something, to be really paying attention.
Yeah.
We may launch something and say, okay, I've always told people, if you're launching like a course or a program, you may think of 20 things that you need to include in that. But I don't know that your customer is going to actually feel like they want all 20 things all at once. It might be a lot. So
Yes.
maybe pick the most 5 important things and then watch and listen and observe to figure out, okay, what are those additional things that I can be adding in that are going to give the most value, and constantly be iterating your services and adding things so that we really can achieve those results for our customers.
Yes, great point. Very, very good point. Yeah. And really, it's just about understanding that just understanding that the sale isn't over when it's over. Yeah.
Yes, so true.
And then the last one is just what I call the send stage. And that is how you can incentivize people to refer your business to others. It may just be something as a simple thank you. oftentimes when people refer me, I'll send them a thank you note and buy them a cup of coffee or something like that, So it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
a lot, but just show that you appreciate when they share your business
Mhm.
with other people.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that network effect and having that word of mouth is so important. Yes, we have all sorts of marketing tactics that we rely on to get strangers and all of that, but having as well those people that are referring their friends is a wonderful thing and very important in our businesses as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is it. Of course, all of those stages can be used in a lot of different parts of your marketing. You can use all of those stages in your social media. You can use them all on your website, or most
Hmm.
of them anyway, and so
Hmm.
really, I feel like once you understand that the buyer's journey, then you can put yourself in their shoes at each of those stages and understand what content you should be providing or what services you should be providing for them.
Hmm. Oh, I love it. I just love how you also took like the sales funnel and the buyer's journey and combined it into something that's just this stepwise process. And it's just like you need to have all of these things. You need to be thinking about all of these things, and they can give you some inspiration for where you should be spending your marketing time and effort and the different messages that you should be putting out there. Because I think sometimes we can find ourselves only focusing on one type of buyer or one type of stage. Maybe we're just doing a ton of education of
Yes.
people. We're just telling them, okay, the gluten-free diet, these are all gluten-free foods, and, really educating the heck out of them, which is great.
Hmm.
And if that's where your heart is, that you're just an educator and you love doing that, that comes naturally to you. But if all you do is ever educate, you're just kind of leaving people in those early stages and you're not guiding them through this process that you just went over. And really, it's in our best interest and our customers' best interest to to move them through, but we need to do it by changing up our messaging and giving them some different messages.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. I think that's it. And a lot of businesses do get stuck in like the awareness stage. I talk to quite a few people that are doing great on social media, but they're not getting sales.
Uh-huh.
They'll have posts that go viral and they're not getting sales. And that is really what you just described, is that they're focusing on one step of this without realizing that it's a full journey and that you have to address every stage of it.
Hmm.
Great
Well,
point.
speaking of mistakes, are there any other common marketing challenges that you see your customers, your clients face that so we can, and how you help them overcome them? Any tips you can give us?
Oh gosh, sakes. Great
How much
question.
time do we have?
I would say that what I just talked about with social media for sure, that is a big one, that people will
Mhm.
spend a lot of time and energy on social media because it's so easy to get sucked into it. And especially if you see people doing really, really well and you're not, so you just trying to crack the code all the time, and that is actually one of the biggest mistakes I've seen. Other mistakes I've seen is through email marketing, not reaching out to your clients on a consistent basis. I recommend it weekly at least, just to keep your brand top of mind for that customer.
Mhm. And so to your whole email list or just to your clients, you're saying once a week? Like,
To my whole list.
okay. Yep. The
Um,
whole list and
yep.
making sure that yeah. And it doesn't have to be long and you could be repurposing other content. If you're spending a lot of
Yes.
time on social writing a post, take that caption and turn it into an email and send it to
Yes.
your list.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. And even if you have a blog, you want to always keep fresh content on your site. That's another area I think
Mm.
people falter in, because it takes time.
Yeah.
And I would say that with most businesses, I think I'm pretty safe to say that we all lack time. Even, as we grow and even if we hire help, we it's hard to keep all the balls in the air, the plate spinning, or whatever analogy you want to use, because
Mhm.
you are focused on running your business, not necessarily on the marketing side of your business. So
Right.
that's another challenge for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, from my own experience, don't feel you have to be in all places all at once.
Yeah. Yes.
Pick a few things. And I would say, building that email list, I wish I had focused on it earlier in my entrepreneurial journey. And you can build your list from social media. You can be sharing your lead magnet and your email subscription on social media. But there are so many other ways that might be more interesting to a lot of business owners, like going and giving a talk and sharing your lead magnet there, or going on a
Yes.
podcast and sharing it there, or going into Facebook groups where your customers hang out and answering questions and sharing your lead magnet there. Like there's lots of different ways to be doing things that might be more interesting and fulfilling to you. And also just saying, okay, what's that one thing I'm going to focus on for a while? Because also starting a blog and a podcast and being on TikTok and Pinterest, and it's too much. It's not possible.
It
So,
is. Yeah. And if you pay close attention, it feels like everybody's doing all the things. But if they are, they've either got a really big team or you're just missing it. They may be really big on TikTok, but they are probably missing something else. So, I mean, we all have the same number of hours in a day. So, this kind of goes into a conversation about time management and all of that. But
yeah. Yeah.
there,
But at least knowing like what should be done with our marketing and all of that, it can allow us to at least spend that time as wisely as humanly possible.
absolutely. And being realistic about what you can accomplish. Because I don't know about you, but if I have more on my list than I can do, I will just shut down and get nothing done or just, I don't know, go into the
Yeah.
fetal position, something, grab a bag
It
to
could be
breathe into.
disheartening.
It can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I run into this with clients too, because I will go through and I'll fill out their whole trail to the sale for a year, right? And, going through that with them, because that's what they want. They want a 12-month marketing plan.
Okay.
And it just feels very, very overwhelming. And so it's really important that you break it down and say, okay, here's where you start. Let's start with your website. That has to be that's your storefront. So let's start
Right.
there. And let's get your names reserved on some social media platforms where you anticipate that your customer is. You don't have to be on all of them. Just figure out where your potential customer is and be on that site rather than trying to do it all. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot, but
Yeah.
that is marketing these days. It's like you do have to think about all of it, unfortunately. So,
But that's why it's so great, people like you coming in and helping these small business owners where, we just either don't have the brain space or the interest in having that marketing hat on all the time in our businesses.
yeah. Well, so many of my clients hate marketing, and so I think, and they're so focused on running their business. I get it. I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you, just like wrapping up here, like how do you tailor some of these marketing strategies for these different business owners that are coming to you? And like, do you tailor it based on like what they enjoy doing and all of that? Yeah.
I take a look at, number one, their ideal customer and really do research on that person, figure out what they're needing. Then I can figure out what social media platforms they need to be on. But I also take a look at where they are in their business, if they are just starting out versus if they are, more established. I take a look at what they have for staffing, if they are a solopreneur.
Yeah, you're going to recommend different things.
Totally. Yeah. And if they can afford to outsource some of it, then I take a look at that too. So it really, really depends on what their current situation is. And then we break it down into tiny little bites because, like I said, even if you are able to, if you've got a huge team and you're able to outsource most or all of it, you still, there is a method for doing it one step at a time versus trying to get everything done at once. It's just a recipe for overwhelm. Yeah.
I have learned that I have team members that can do a lot of things for me, but even I've learned that if I'm trying to then launch all of these things all at once, I still need to review work and, set the strategy and all of that. And I can't possibly do that for all of these simultaneous projects. So even if I do have people ready to execute, I can't be saying, okay, let's go execute these 5 things simultaneously.
Right. Yeah. And it would probably overwhelm your customer too. If you're like, okay, I'm here and here and here. And then, I got this new thing. And, it's a lot for anybody. And then, the other thing too, and I didn't really bring this up earlier, but the important thing to think about marketing is that you need to test it. Not everything is going to be a huge hit.
Slam dunk.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a sports analogy, but I like that one.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, it's not. So, it's important to just try things a little at a time, test it, and see if it's working. If it's not working, make an adjustment, see if it works, try again, especially in like ads. You don't want to
Yes.
you want to make one small change on two different ads and see which one performs better before you change all of them. And then you're like, you're overwhelmed.
I don't
You've
know.
got, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
this one
Too
worked
much
well.
data, and the sample sizes are so small potentially too, because it's not
Yes.
like you're wanting to drop $1,000 on, ads necessarily, depending on what your marketing budget is and all of that. But
Hmm.
for example, and okay, we spent $20 here to test this one, 20, but it's not enough information to really make a decision anyway. And yeah, it's just also it can make your own head spin as a business owner to try and piece through all of the data. I mean, when we do our launches, we do a debrief and we look to see, okay, what did we do and what worked and what didn't. And if we changed too many things between one launch to the next, we really can't point to what made things better or worse if we
Right.
changed too much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. Love
yeah.
it.
Well, Janice, this has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and walking us through the trail. I feel like we went on a hike. We could put our heart rates up. So you have so much knowledge to give. Where can people go to learn even more from you?
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, you can go to janicehosteiger.com is my website. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram at Janice Hosteiger Marketing. And if you want to download a workbook to help you through your own trail to the sale, you can go to janicehosteiger.com/trail.
Awesome. Yeah, we will
So,
have all of that in the show notes for anyone who was furiously taking notes during this episode or wishing that you had a transcript. You can now go and download the workbook, and all of the steps that Janice walked us through are all there, and you can make notes. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for giving that resource to folks.
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much again for being here, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Whitney.
Well, what a wonderful episode. I hope you got a lot out of it and a lot of ideas and thoughts about how you can be approaching your marketing from a more strategic standpoint and really getting this framework now of how to be thinking about your messaging and bringing your customer through this journey. I think for a lot of us, sometimes we just need to get that bigger picture idea and framework. And Janice did such a great job describing that to us. So make sure you do get her download from our show notes. And then I also want to say we talked about websites a whole lot in this episode as well. And if you are looking to create a website for your business, or you have a website right now, but it's just not doing the things that we talked about in today's episode and you want a better one, then I have a solution for you. We have the Wellness Pro website system. This is our Done With You program where we help you launch a beautiful website on WordPress that is going to speak to your ideal customers and attract new clients into your business. So if you want to learn more about that program and when doors are going to be opening next, go to wellnessprowebsite.com and check it out. Drop your name so that you can be notified of when doors are opening. And I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening.